she couldn't cry. Not because she lacked eyes or tear ducts, but because the concept of weeping had been long erased from her kind. The Scifi were an ancient species, older than many stars, molded by a civilization that valued clarity of mind above all. Emotion was a relic, an echo from their primordial oceans, cut away generation after generation until they became as smooth and silent as moonlit glass. Their cities shimmered on floating platforms above dark seas, crystalline towers reflecting the starlight in perfect harmony. The Scifi spoke only in tones of light, gestures so subtle they seemed like ripples across water. No anger, no joy, no grief. Just cool logic and endless, placid existence. Each Scifi carried within them a core of frozen lumina, a living crystal that pulsed with knowledge but never with feeling. They believed it made them eternal, safe from the chaos of primitive passions that had doomed so many other races. Into this world crashed a human ship, battered by solar storms, its hull scorched and engines trailing flame like a dying comet. From the wreckage stepped one man, Dalen, a wanderer with skin bronzed by foreign suns and eyes bright as a newborn dawn. His presence was jarring, a violent note in the quiet song of the Scifi. They came to watch him from afar, their translucent forms flickering in the dark, wondering why he wept as he gathered scraps of his ruined vessel. They wondered why he sang to himself in the evenings, low and broken tunes that quivered across the Black Sea. One Scifi, called Myria, felt an unfamiliar disturbance watching him. Her core flickered faintly whenever she listened to his voice, a pulse that left her limbs trembling. She approached, though no Scifi had dared approach an outsider for centuries. Dalen looked up, startled at first, then softened as he saw her shimmering figure. Without words, he beckoned her closer, holding out his hand. She hesitated, they did not touch. Touch was an invitation to contagion, to instability. Yet, something in his warmth overrode centuries of silent doctrine. She placed her delicate hand in his, and for the first time, she felt warmth flood through her form, an electric rush that almost shattered her core. Dalen smiled, tears still streaking his face. "Myria," he whispered, as if he had known her name all along. She watched the water spill from his eyes and felt confusion. Why release precious fluids? What purpose did it serve? Sensing her question without needing words, Dalen pressed her hand to his cheek. The tears smeared across her palm like liquid stars. "These are tears," he murmured. "It's rain, but from inside. It's how we humans release the storms we carry." Storms. She had no storms, only an endless, still sea inside her mind. Yet, when he explained, her core trembled harder, cracks forming in its pristine surface. Each night, she returned to him. She watched him dance by a small fire he built from broken ship panels, watched him laugh at the flickering flames, watched him speak of worlds that shimmered with sunrise colors, of forests alive with singing birds and children's laughter. He spoke of pain, too, of lost friends, of lovers turned to memory, of battles that left scars deeper than any wound. Each word was a hammer, striking at the shell she had carried her entire life. And then, one morning, as a pale dawn bled over the sea, Dalen awoke to find Myria kneeling beside him, her crystalline body shaking violently. She tried to speak, but only shards of light spilled from her fingers. He reached out, wrapping his arms around her. At first, she flinched, the first true contact her kind had known in millennia, but he did not let go. He held her tighter, his heart drumming against her fragile chest. And in that warmth, she finally shattered. A long, shuddering crack ran through her core, and from it burst a flood she had never imagined possible. Not water, not pure light, but something deeper, a luminous, shimmering rain that dripped from her face, rolled down her arms, pooled around them like a new ocean. Her first tears. She made no sound, her kind had no voice for crying, but the tremors of her soul shook the platform beneath them. Dalen held her as if she might fall apart completely, whispering words that made no sense to her mind, but all the sense to her newly awakened heart. "Let it come," he breathed against her brow. "Let it wash you clean." In that moment, Myria felt all the lifetimes of silence, the centuries of unspoken longing, the weight of a million sunsets she had watched without feeling. She saw her ancestors' rigid discipline collapse in the glow of human warmth. The rain from her core continued until dawn rose fully, and the sea below reflected 1,000 tiny stars falling from her. When it finally slowed, Dalen pulled back just enough to look into her luminous eyes. "You are alive," he said, voice thick with his own tears. "Not just existing, alive." Myria could not answer with words. Instead, she touched her fingertips to his cheeks, collecting the human tears like sacred jewels. She pressed them into her core's new cracks, and something inside her began to bloom, a warmth so bright it threatened to consume her. From that day, Myria refused to return to the cold towers. She stayed by Dalen's side, learning the meaning of every tremble, every sigh, every ache, and every rush of joy. Other Sari that came to watch, at first horrified, then curious. They saw Myria's reign in Dalen's embrace, and something ancient stirred in them too. One by one they stepped forward, extending tentative hands toward the human, risking the infection of warmth. Dalen embraced them all, his arms strong enough to hold an entire civilization's pain. Slowly, the silent towers began to crack. Bridges once pristine turned into gardens where Sari the touched and shared luminous tears. Laughter, a sound they had never known, rang across their seas for the first time. Their sea, once a mirror of perfect emptiness, rippled with new life, reflecting stars and tears and trembling smiles. Myria remained their guide, carrying the memory of her first reign, her first tremor, and the heartbeat of the human who had held her through it all. In the end, they did not lose themselves as they had feared. They discovered a universe inside each flicker of light, each gentle touch. And in that universe, they found storms worth weeping for and sunrises worth living to see. It was said that, long after Dalen was gone, Myria stood on the highest tower each dawn, lifting her hands to the sky. From her fingers, a shimmering rain would fall into the sea below, a rain that sang of loss and love, of endings and eternal beginnings. And in that gentle rain, every Sari that felt the echo of a human heartbeat that had once taught them to cry and, at last, to live.